Dean's enduring status as one of Hollywood's most intriguing figures owes less to his brief career and more to the complex layers of his personal and professional life. While his brooding performances in films like Rebel, Without a Cause carved out his place as a symbol of youthful rebellion, what often remains overshadowed is the way he navigated Hollywood's rigid and often punishing structures. During a time when the industry operated under a heavily scrutinized morality code, stories of Dean's alleged participation in gay-for-pay relationships with influential men began to emerge, shedding a different light on his rise to fame. His charm and enigmatic persona seemed to captivate not only his audience, but also the powerful figures who could open doors in the industry. Dean's willingness to play by these unspoken rules of Hollywood, cultivating connections through these rumored relationships, reveals the calculated choices he made to secure his place in the spotlight. Speculation about Dean's private life continued to fuel intrigue around him long after his untimely death. At a time when queer identities were shrouded in secrecy, the whispers of his relationships offered a counter-narrative to the sanitized, heteronormative roles that Hollywood promoted. Beyond the illicit allure, these rumors also cast light on the pressures forced upon young actors aspiring to break into the industry, especially those who lacked the connections or financial safety net to navigate its competitive terrain. Yet, what makes Dean's story resonate is not just the rumors themselves, but the vulnerability they reveal about the sacrifices individuals made to survive in a system designed to control every aspect of their public and private lives. Still, there is an undeniable complexity to the way Dean's legacy intertwines with these whispered truths. On one hand, they challenge the pedestal of untouchable glamour he was placed upon, showing a man who may have been willing to compromise personal boundaries to achieve professional aspirations. On the other, they illuminate an era where authenticity often took a backseat to career survival, especially for those perceived as outsiders. This duality is perhaps what keeps Dean's story alive, his image as both an icon of bold defiance and a figure bound by the invisible strings of an unforgiving industry. Dean's unique presence radiated a transformative blend of qualities that defied the rigid gender expectations of 1950s Hollywood. He stood apart by merging traditional notions of masculinity with a compelling undercurrent of soft, almost androgynous attributes. This seamless fusion imbued his persona with an enigmatic complexity. Where others adhered to a singular image of strength, Dean offered something far more intricate, a sense of confidence that coexisted with visible vulnerability. It was this striking combination that created a magnetic charm capable of drawing in diverse audiences. For women, he was a departure from conventional romantic leads. For men, he was both an aspirational figure and a relatable embodiment of inner struggle. Dean carried this charisma not merely as a personal attribute, but as an integral part of his characters, amplifying it through emotionally raw performances. His craft revealed on-screen personas that cried, faltered, and rebelled against the generational expectations surrounding them. He expressed frustrations and desires that resonated deeply with the discontent of youth in the post-war era. His performances felt real, tinged with a nuanced emotional depth that strayed far from melodramatic stereotypes. Critics noted how his demeanor challenged societal norms. Where stoic men abounded, here was someone willing to expose fragility and anguish within strength. While many actors of his time were chiseled into perfection by Hollywood's stringent standards, Dean's rugged imperfection made him all the more compelling. He wasn't blatantly handsome. His look carried an air of raw authenticity, unpolished yet striking. Through his portrayal of rebellion, he became a mirror for a society ready to question itself. His role in Rebel Without a Cause was iconic not only for its narrative, but for his ability to project inner turmoil, connecting audiences to a growing sense of cultural and individual unrest. His fashion choices, from his classic leather jacket to his wind-swept hair, became symbols of disobedient elegance that reshaped the archetypes of male beauty. The aura of androgyny within his performances broadened his appeal across different spectrums of gender and sexuality. His unconventional masculinity allowed both outwardly traditional and progressive audiences to find a connection with him. His famous declaration, "Only the gentle are ever really strong," encapsulated this paradigm shift. It resonated as a quiet challenge to the era's unwavering ideals of dominance and stoicism. He redefined a man's image, lending it a grace that rivaled, if not surpassed, the era's stoic heroes. Dean's allure did not diminish after his untimely demise. Rather, it amplified. Through photographs, films, and ongoing cultural discussions, His iconography has consistently maintained its relevance. Emerging new generations reinterpret his significance, finding in him a symbol of timeless rebellion and emotional authenticity. Whether as a teenager gazing at his photos or a scholar dissecting his impact on cinema, people have perpetuated Dean's extraordinary legacy, ensuring that his light endures far beyond the fleeting candles of his era. Although best known for his enduring cinematic legacy, James Dean transcended the role of a mere actor, becoming an emblem of societal change and youth culture in the 1950s. His portrayal of characters in films such as Rebel Without a Cause, East of Eden, and Giant gave voice to the post-war generation's frustration and yearning for identity. It was through Dean's nuanced depictions of rebellion, alienation, and vulnerability that countless young people found a figure who mirrored their inner struggles. His characters often resisted the demands of conformity, challenging familial and societal expectations in a manner that resonated deeply with audiences. Dean's breakthrough roles coincided with a cultural moment of shifting values in post-war America, a period marked by rising prosperity, yet accompanied by growing unease over rigid social norms. This transformation of the American landscape allowed his films to strike a particularly profound chord. Deftly portraying emotions and experiences that were once stigmatized, he helped amplify the voice of a disenfranchised youth frustrated by outdated traditions and an absence of authentic role models. Dean's rebellious stance against punitive authority captured the ethos of teenagers who longed for an outlet to express their independence and disillusionment with the world they inherited. His acting approach, informed by the method style made famous by contemporaries such as Marlon Brando, brought an unprecedented sense of realism and intensity to the screen. Beyond iconic imagery like the red jacket in Rebel Without a Cause, Dean's performances conveyed a raw emotionality that underscored his character's struggles with identity and belonging. This ability to tap into universal feelings of estrangement extended his appeal across demographic and geographical boundaries. In playing Jim Stark, a misfit trying to navigate the strained dynamics of both family life and adolescence, Dean personified a new archetype, the misunderstood youth searching for autonomy while forging connections in an impersonal world. By giving a human face to the complexities of generational discord, Dean did more than provide escapist entertainment. He legitimized the importance of younger voices in the cultural conversation. For male and female audiences alike, he became a cultural touchstone whose image went on to symbolize rebellion well beyond his untimely death. Young men emulated his cool demeanor, while his vulnerability and sensitivity redefined on-screen masculinity. Moreover, James Dean's early discarding of conventional success in favor of personal fulfillment resonated as a subtle challenge to materialistic aspirations commonly celebrated at the time. The introspection and spontaneity he embodied came as an antidote to the mechanized predictability of societal roles, particularly those dictated by corporate culture or patriarchal structures. Youth audiences during the mid-20th century felt trapped in a world that demanded excellence but offered little in terms of meaningful engagement. Dean dared to illustrate alternatives, presenting a vision of self-expression unbound by rules written by prior generations. Although his career was tragically brief, his cultural impact endures as one of the most powerful reflections of youthful rebellion in modern history. With an untamed spirit and the authenticity he brought to his roles, Dean afforded an entire cohort the permission to assert their individuality without apology. His legacy is a reminder of the value of art in redefining societal norms and challenging the status quo, particularly at a time when young people sought the courage to question structures taken for granted. Although James Dean's life was tragically short, his impact on both Hollywood and LGBTQ history has been immense. As an actor who lived authentically in a time when societal norms were rigidly enforced, Dean's mystique only grew after his untimely death in 1955. Much of his legacy centers on his status as an enduring gay icon, marked by whispers of his romantic entanglements with both men and women. This fluidity in love and relationships, coupled with his refusal to publicly label his sexuality, represents a departure from the more conservative image Hollywood projected during its golden era. Dean's enigmatic charm transcended boundaries, appealing to a wide spectrum of admirers. His celebrated roles in films like Rebel Without a Cause painted him as a poster boy of rebellion and vulnerability. These characteristics endeared him to audiences who felt outcast or misunderstood, further strengthening his resonance within queer communities. During an era when being openly gay or bisexual could lead to career-ending scandals, Dean's nuanced personal life quietly paved the way for more open discussions about sexuality in the entertainment industry. Though few of his contemporaries dared to follow in his footsteps, Dean's relationships, both rumored and affirmed, painted a picture of a man who embraced complexity. Accounts of his intimate bonds, including those with male co-stars and mentors, offer a rare glimpse into a period defined by rigid definitions of gender and love. Stories of his close friendships with other Hollywood stars, sometimes laced with unverified claims of romance, contributed to his mystique and amplified his status as a queer figure. For many in the LGBTQ community, his courage in tackling societal norms, without publicly debating or denying them, was a quiet act of rebellion against the culture of conformity. What makes Dean especially iconic in this light is not just his sexuality, but how it adds depth to his characters. As an actor, he embodied emotions so authentically that audiences couldn't help but project their own struggles onto him. His performances radiated a sensitivity and emotional vulnerability that were rarely celebrated in male actors of that time. This complexity made him relatable to queer viewers, who saw in him a reflection of their own attempts to challenge societal expectations. Even after his death, Dean's image has remained a canvas upon which queer culture has built its understanding of visibility and acceptance. Writers, filmmakers, and historians continue to dissect his brief yet impactful life to reveal layers of a man who straddled boundaries of gender, desire, and identity. Projects delving into his personal life often focus not just on his artistry, but on his quiet defiance, an element that resonates with any fight against marginalization. The multifaceted narratives surrounding James Dean make him not only an icon of cinema, but a lasting figure in the history of LGBTQ representation and broader cultural expression. During a time when society adhered strictly to rigid norms, James Dean emerged as a figure of defiance and complexity, particularly in his personal explorations of love and relationships. Dean was known not only for his immense talent and iconic roles, but also for the nuances of his private life, which often refused to conform to societal expectations. His interactions, often marked by emotional and romantic dimensions, crossed traditional boundaries, involving connections with both men and women that transcended the definitions typically imposed by mid-20th century culture. Openly defying the conservatism of the era, Dean seemed indifferent to the exact labels others might want to affix to him. While others speculated, he chose a path of personal authenticity, navigating his relationships in a way that spoke to his desire to live truthfully. This stance made him both admired for his bravery and criticized by those who demanded conformity. His refusal to be strictly categorized resonated with ideas of sexual fluidity, an acknowledgement of attraction beyond rigidly defined orientations or expectations. Accounts and rumors about his romantic affairs with both genders varied widely, ranging from emotional connections to allegedly more physical relationships. Yet Dean rarely addressed these matters directly, heightening his air of mystery. Biographers and those who knew him have offered glimpses of his life outside the public eye, portraying a man both confident in his choices and contemplative about his public image. It is said that he understood the importance of his persona as a Hollywood star, often leaving certain aspects of his sexuality unspoken to maintain his career, while still challenging the constraints it imposed. This openness to unconventional relationships also became a point of contention and vulnerability. Reports suggest that Dean at times faced blackmail threats regarding his private life. In these moments, the pressures of living authentically while navigating a career in a judgmental industry became painfully apparent. Dean's close friendships, such as those with William Bast and others, have been explored as spaces of both camaraderie and possible romantic experimentation, underlining his departure from the dichotomies of straight or gay. James Dean's personal choices illuminated his commitment to rejecting any expectation that he fit into a predetermined mold. His career, though cut tragically short, paralleled his personal life in its daring, enigmatic quality. In some ways, his willingness to embrace a more fluid view of relationships not only challenged traditional masculinity, but also marked him as a figure of remarkable modernity. Through his rebellion against societal norms, Dean became more than a screen icon. He became a symbol of authenticity, forever imprinted within the collective memory. Due to limitations in retrieving sufficient information, I will proceed with the original input and the available context. Making his way through the competitive and often exploitative world of Hollywood, James Dean adopted a pragmatic approach to relationships. Biographers have scrutinized his personal connections, noting how these interactions often transcended romance, serving as calculated moves on the Hollywood chessboard. Dean's strategic behavior reflected a deep understanding of the industry's dynamics and an unyielding drive to achieve success in a space fraught with challenges. Rather than relying solely on talent, charisma, or serendipity, Dean appeared to grasp the necessity of building impactful relationships that could directly or indirectly steer his acting career. Many of his partnerships with individuals in Hollywood evolved with dual motivations. These were not simply romances. They were choices influenced by career aspirations and the utility of such bonds for advancing his artistic journey. By leveraging these relationships, Dean could navigate the labyrinthine entertainment industry and secure pivotal chances to showcase his talent. Reports from those who analyzed his life suggest that he was adept at subtly modifying his persona to meet the expectations or desires of specific individuals, whether producers, directors, or influential insiders. This malleability, combined with his trademark intensity and sensitivity, further enhanced his appeal and utility in professional circles. Such a calculated approach was not surprising in an industry still marked by rigid hierarchies and gatekeeping. For someone like Dean, who came from humble beginnings, the stakes were inherently high. His willingness to adapt and forge practical alliances highlights a resourceful and determined character beneath the iconic rebel image. Though it may seem opportunistic, these actions underscore the realities of Hollywood's cutthroat environment and the survival tactics commonplace among rising stars of the 1950s. Dean's personality and work orchestrated a fragile balance of ambition and artistry, with his relationships forming a significant component of this equation. He approached these connections as extensions of his craft, carefully intertwining personal affiliations with professional aspirations. This deliberate interplay helped him ascend the competitive ladder, leaving behind not just his films, but a legacy of a deeply calculated individual working against the odds. James Dean's Hollywood connections were as dramatic and fascinating as his on-screen roles. Weaving him into the social fabric of Tinseltown's golden era, his relationship with Marilyn Monroe intrigued fans and the industry alike. They reportedly shared a powerful yet mysterious bond, fueled by mutual understanding and shared struggles as rising stars subjected to Hollywood's relentless pressures. Their connection sparked rumors, with tales of fleeting romantic encounters adding to their lasting allure. Elizabeth Taylor, another iconic figure of the time, was more than a co-star to Dean. The two developed a deep and enduring friendship during the filming of Giant, with Taylor reportedly providing emotional support to Dean as he navigated personal insecurities and a growing sense of isolation. Judy Garland, known for her vulnerability and brilliance, found in Dean a kindred spirit, as both struggled with the constant demands of their careers and personal demons. Their conversations reportedly delved into topics of pain and survival, a reflection of the emotional depths that bonded them. Meanwhile, Dean's complicated rapport with Rock Hudson further elevated their collective legend. Their shared time on the set of Giant was marked by camaraderie, conflicts, and underlying tension, offering glimpses of two stars grappling with public personas that often clashed with private identities. Perhaps one of the most enigmatic relationships was James Dean's association with Marlon Brando. Brando, already a revered figure in the industry, was said to have been admired, possibly idolized by Dean. Speculation surrounded the intensity of their bond, feeding into narratives of rivalry interwoven with personal kinship. Their connection symbolized a dynamic interplay of admiration, competitiveness, and the blurred lines of Hollywood's glittering yet shadowy social circles. These distinctive relationships were not only reflective of James Dean's personal life, but also cemented his position as a figure who defied conventions and embraced the complex web of emotions and identities that defined Hollywood's golden age. His friendships and romantic liaisons, whether deeply personal or fleeting, amplified the mystique surrounding him, while also humanizing the rebel icon whose life, though tragically short, reverberates through cultural history. Despite James Dean's meteoric rise to stardom, his personal life revealed a man grappling with deep internal conflicts that often overshadowed his professional achievements. Those who knew him described him as intensely introspective, a trait that gave him a unique sensitivity as an artist, but also left him vulnerable to his emotions. Loneliness, a sensation etched into his psyche from a young age, and persistent insecurities seemed to dominate his inner world. The death of his mother when he was just 9 years old left a profound void in his life. Feeling abandoned by his father, who failed to attend her funeral, James carried the weight of unresolved emotional wounds that lingered into adulthood. These formative experiences manifested in a volatile temperament that could be both magnetic and challenging. On one hand, his brooding demeanor and unpredictability drew admiration and intrigue, fueling the enigmatic allure that defined him as a cultural icon. Conversely, it made personal relationships tumultuous and strained. He had a tendency to push people away, retreating into self-imposed isolation. This habit of withdrawing not only compounded his feelings of loneliness, but also reinforced the air of mystery that surrounded him. Colleagues often noted his intensity, which sometimes bordered on an almost obsessive-compulsive drive to achieve perfection in his craft. Yet, this same intensity could make him difficult to work with, as his erratic moods and bursts of anger alienated those around him. Some attributed these outbursts to the unresolved pain of his childhood, a hypothesis that gains weight when considering how frequently James sought to delve deep into characters racked by inner turmoil, roles that seemed to mirror his personal struggles. The complexity of his emotions extended to his romantic endeavors, which were marked by instability and a noticeable fear of intimacy. His relationships, particularly those with women, often ended abruptly, clouded by a lack of trust and an inability to open up. Friends, and even lovers remarked on his enigmatic yet distant nature, leaving many to speculate about the depth of his internal battles. Some believed he was seeking not just companionship, but an escape from the ghosts of his past, a solace he never quite found. Despite, or perhaps because of, his struggles, James Dean exuded a magnetic quality that resonated deeply with fans and admirers. His capacity for vulnerability shone through his performances, creating characters that audiences could relate to profoundly. Yet, in his personal life, this vulnerability often left him exposed, amplifying his sense of fragility. His short life and tragic end further cemented the perception of him as a tortured soul, a man as much defined by his inner struggles as by his accomplishments on screen. Transitioning from a young man brimming with aspiration to a figure immortalized for his raw passion and enigma, James Dean embodied the quintessential icon of rebellion and intensity in Hollywood's golden era. Beneath the surface of his films and public persona, a darker side to his life emerged, one steeped in danger, mental unrest, and self-destructive behavior. Despite skyrocketing to fame, reports suggest that Dean carried a flick knife, a physical emblem of his edgy lifestyle and fascination with confrontation. This wasn't simply an accessory. It symbolized his frequent flirtations with danger, which resonated with his image as a bad boy. His journey was as layered and tormented as the characters he portrayed on screen. Engaging in self-harm reportedly formed part of his acting exercises, blurring the lines between personal anguish and professional dedication. To James Dean, these acts seemed more than rituals. They were intrinsic to his pursuit of authenticity and method acting. These intense practices pointed to a deeply troubled psyche, revealing a man who sought to connect with every ounce of pain his roles demanded. By pushing himself to extremes both in private moments and while immersed in his craft, Dean displayed a tendency towards self-destruction reflective of internal tumuli. His physical harm appeared not as an isolated expression but as a mirror to psychological struggles, a likely catharsis for bottled emotions he couldn't voice otherwise. What captivated audiences most about James Dean was the vulnerability he allowed to seep through in his work, clearly springing from a genuine source. The angry outbursts, the emotional depth, the raw edge that defined his performances were eerily reminiscent of his inner battles. Every moment in front of the camera radiated his commitment to crushing his limits and embracing his shadows, enabling viewers to connect with his portrayals on a soul-deep level. His affinity for the dangerous wasn't limited solely to these private acts. Stories abound about his love for speed, whether on motorcycles or behind the wheel of fast cars, where control and chaos became a precarious dance. Such thrill-seeking behavior not only defined Dean's rebellious charisma, but also signaled an undercurrent of recklessness running through his personality. While the allure of high risks could have functioned as a method of psychological relief, they also aligned with patterns of his deeper self-destructive tendencies. Whether by forming tumultuous personal relationships or openly courting tension on set, controversy and intensity trailed him like a shadow, entwining with his narrative. Though celebrated for his artistry and magnetism, it is impossible to separate Dean's talents from the torment that fueled him. His on-screen moments brimmed with unfiltered truth, as if his character's torment mirrored the existential struggles he faced every day. Submerging himself into such emotionally charged performances was both his gift and his undoing. His viewers were left to ponder whether his publicized flair for nonconformity was merely a role he inhabited, or an honest display of his fragile core, torn between seeking solace and testing boundaries. These contrasts remain a haunting testament to how thin the line is between brilliance and despair in the lives of artists. Their relationship was brief yet vibrant, encapsulating the essence of Hollywood's passionate yet fleeting romances. When James Dean and Marilyn Monroe came together, their connection was marked by an intense fervor that mirrored their respective struggles with fame and self-identity. They found solace in the shared understanding of living in the glare of the public eye, where each move was scrutinized. The time they spent together revealed a bond that was as tender as it was tumultuous, brimming with dramatic highs and lows emblematic of their lives. Despite their mutual attraction, both recognized that the weight of their personal battles would present significant challenges to any long-term commitment. Monroe grappled with insecurities beneath a glamorous facade, while Dean was equally tormented by the pressures of his rebellious persona. These shared vulnerabilities drew them closer for moments of earnest affection, yet acted as a barrier that neither was equipped to overcome fully. Marilyn's world often oscillated between vulnerability and carefully crafted charm, while Dean represented the rebellion and tortured intensity of his generation. Together, their relationship felt like a fleeting masterpiece, painted in vibrant yet transient strokes of passion and understanding. Both stars were aware that their flame burned too bright to endure the ordinary struggles of life and love. They loved with an intensity that was fitting for their larger-than-life personas, but the very traits that connected them also foretold the impossibility of their unity in a conventional sense. It was a bond defined by its impermanence, serving as both a testament to their depth of understanding and a reflection of the chaos that came with their celebrity. Dean's insecurities manifested prominently in both his personal and professional demeanor. Frequently described as difficult and polarizing, he carried an emotional weight that biographer Darwin Porter meticulously examined. Dean's struggle revolved around a deep sense of internal conflict. Despite his notable talent and the admiration he garnered, he constantly doubted his worth and abilities. This insecurity often made its presence felt as arrogance or aloofness, creating a divide in how colleagues perceived him. Some bowed to his undeniable charisma and raw, untapped talent, while others found his unpredictable nature exhausting. Within Hollywood's intricate web, where praise and scrutiny walked hand in hand, Dean's complex persona became even more pronounced. The industry spotlight magnified his vulnerabilities, turning his quest for self-validation into a desperate balancing act. Dean's yearning for approval clashed with his inner turmoil, feeding into a continuous cycle of self-questioning and emotional isolation. Yet it was this very tension that seemed to fuel his artistry. His pain and contradictions translated into his performances, which often bristled with palpable emotion and haunting realism. At times, he would retreat into solitude, unable to reconcile his outward bravado with the self-doubt gnawing at his core. He often leaned on his craft as an escape, pouring his frustrations, fears, and desires into roles that earned him a place among the era's most compelling actors. Yet his insecurity took a toll on his professional relationships. His contemporaries, faced with his mercurial moods, either admired his rebellious passion or resented his unruly behaviors. Dean's inability to accept reassurance without question caused friction, leaving him both admired and isolated within the industry he sought to conquer. Rather than embracing the recognition he received, he fixated on the gaps he perceived in his performances. To him, success was fleeting and validation never certain. Although he sought to project an image of confidence, those close to him witnessed the fragile edges of his spirit. His interactions bore evidence of a man trapped between his ambitions and his insecurity, a paradox that both defined and plagued his short but arresting career. The life of James Dean was forever altered by a significant tragedy in his childhood: the untimely death of his mother, Mildred, when he was just 9 years old. Mildred had been diagnosed with uterine cancer, and her passing marked not only the loss of a beloved parent, but also the severing of what was described as an extraordinary bond between mother and son. She had been James' closest confidant, someone who nurtured his budding interest in the arts and understood his sensitive nature. As a young boy filled with curiosity and dreams, Dean found in his mother a source of support and inspiration. Her death, therefore, was a devastating blow from which he never fully recovered. After her passing, James' life took another unsettling turn as his father, Winton Dean, seemingly retreated from his role as a caregiver. Having relocated the family to California to pursue a career as a dental technician, Winton struggled to cope with the aftermath of his wife's death. He sent James back to Indiana, where the young boy was placed under the care of his aunt and uncle on their farm. This sense of abandonment compounded James's grief. While his father's decision may have been driven by practical concerns, it left James feeling isolated and unwanted. The move uprooted him not only geographically, but emotionally, severing his ties to what little stability remained in his world. The loss of his mother, and the weakening of his relationship with his father cast a long shadow over James Dean's formative years. Living with his relatives in a quiet, rural environment, young Dean found himself grappling with a deep sense of loneliness. The absence of his mother, who had been a guiding presence, left him adrift, and his father's perceived rejection further amplified his sense of alienation. These early experiences of loss and emotional abandonment became key drivers of the complexities that later defined his character. James Dean's later struggles, as an artist and as a person, can in many ways be traced back to this turbulent period in his life. The wounds of his childhood were profound, shaping his emotional depth and fueling the intensity he brought to his performances. On screen, he portrayed characters marked by vulnerability and rebellion, roles that resonated deeply with his own experiences. His ability to project raw emotion and inner turmoil was not merely a testament to his acting skills, but also a reflection of the personal battles he carried within. Even as his star rose and he gained recognition in Hollywood, the pain of those early years lingered. The isolation he felt as a child seemed to inform his adult relationships, often marked by a yearning for connection, but also an inability to fully trust or depend on others. His brief but impactful career mirrored the internal struggles born of a life interrupted too soon by loss. After the death of his mother, James Dean experienced a profound emotional shift that would echo throughout his life. Losing his mother at the tender age of 9 left a void that not only saddened him, but also unraveled the stability of his family. This loss caused his father, who had already relocated the family to California for work, to send James back to Indiana to live with his aunt and uncle. This decision to separate from his son created a deep sense of abandonment for Dean, one that haunted him for the rest of his days. He traveled with the coffin carrying his mother's remains, a journey that starkly symbolized his own feelings of being discarded. Removed from his father's care, and set in the Midwest, Dean found himself yearning for the bond he once shared with his parents. The passing of his mother had already removed one essential anchor in his life, and his father's choice to send him away severed the remaining tie. These feelings of neglect left him with a growing resentment towards his father, sentiments that he often expressed openly. He felt betrayed and unloved, a wound that he tried to mend but could never quite heal. His relationship with his father remained strained even as Dean grew older. When he pursued acting, his father reportedly dismissed the career as impractical, further deepening the gulf between them. This lack of validation cut deeply into Dean's psyche, fueling an inner turmoil that became both his curse and his muse. Unresolved emotions stemming from childhood abandonment emerged in his acting roles, allowing him to channel his resentments into performances that felt raw, authentic, and emotionally charged. Seeking to fill the emotional void left by a broken family dynamic, Dean turned to intense friendships and mentorships. Certain individuals in his life became surrogate family members, offering him the support he craved but never truly received from his father. Yet, these relationships often carried their own complexities and lacked the permanence Dean sought. The pain of disconnection from his father overshadowed the bonds he tried to forge, leaving him with an unshakable sense of loneliness. The lasting impact of these early experiences was evident throughout Dean's brief but impactful career. The roles he played often paralleled his real-life struggles, adding layers of depth to his characters. The father-son conflict portrayed in East of Eden, for instance, felt intimately familiar to him, facing his character's torment as if it were his own life on display. Dean's ability to convey such genuine emotion stemmed from his ongoing battle with unresolved childhood traumas and strained familial relationships. Dean's search for guidance during his formative years saw him developing a relationship with a local Methodist pastor, James DeWeerd, who served as a mentor and substitute paternal figure in his life. This relationship began when Dean was still in high school and endured for several years, bearing significant influence on the young actor. DeWeerd introduced Dean to various aspects of life beyond the confines of their small community, including his eventual love for theater, car racing, and even bullfighting. For Dean, who had lost his mother at a young age and felt the absence of his father, this connection seemed to fill a void that he desperately needed. However, this relationship was surrounded by an air of controversy and mystery. Some biographers and sources have raised questions about the nature of their bond, with suggestions that it may have been more than a straightforward mentorship. While DeWeerd's role offered Dean exposure to activities and interests that shaped his burgeoning identity, it also reportedly left scars that had long-term implications on his personal and emotional development. Speculation surfaced in later years that this bond included elements of inappropriate intimacy, casting a shadow over what should have been a nurturing and guiding relationship. Dean himself reportedly confided in close friends about his experiences with DeWeerd, describing an emotionally fraught and complex dynamic. The connection, while pivotal in certain developmental aspects, also seemed to carry a burden that Dean was never fully able to shed. For a young man yearning for paternal guidance and acceptance, this relationship likely sowed seeds of conflicting emotions that manifested in his later relationships with colleagues, friends, and even his romantic partners. It was a connection layered with elements of both closeness and ambiguity, setting the stage for an adulthood marked by profound, unresolved issues. Despite these complexities, it is undeniable that DeWeerd played a formative role in shaping the man James Dean would become, including his interests and passions that later defined his career and iconic status. Yet, the relationship underscored how significant figures in a person's life can leave imprints that are both enlightening and deeply troubling, contributing to the enigmatic persona that James Dean projected to the world. During his short-lived yet impactful career, James Dean's deep emotional struggles profoundly influenced both his personal life and artistic expression. Friends often described his demeanor as highly unpredictable, with frequent mood swings and periods of pronounced melancholy that seemed to pervade his existence. These dualities, moments of charisma and connection followed by sudden withdrawal, highlighted his inner turmoil. While these tendencies seemed to stem partially from his personal insecurities, they were magnified by his quest for self-understanding and authenticity, further complicating his relationships and his sense of belonging. Dean's vulnerability was evident to those close to him. In moments of trust, he would openly share his doubts and fears. These glimpses into his psyche painted the picture of a man torn between the intense pressures of his burgeoning fame and a desire for genuine, meaningful connections. Yet, this openness was juxtaposed with long bouts of isolation, especially during emotionally turbulent times, when he would retreat entirely from those who cared for him. Such behavior, while alienating to some, reflected the war between his social needs and his deeply ingrained coping mechanisms of solitude. Women and men, whether romantic partners or friends, often found their efforts to reach him thwarted by his self-imposed emotional barricades. His ability to charm and connect was undeniable. However, those bonds were precariously balanced on his fluctuating sense of trust and comfort in revealing his true self. A common observation among his circle was that his aloofness and contradictions seemed to originate from a deeply rooted discomfort within his own skin, a theme that resonated not just in his personal relationships, but also within his public persona. Moreover, Dean's isolation was not merely a product of his personality, but also of the heavy weight of expectation placed upon him as he ascended to stardom. This dichotomy, the need to demonstrate invincibility while grappling with fragile emotions, made his struggle even more agonizing. In his retreat, he found temporary solace, crafting a protective space that shielded him from the glare of the outside world. And yet, these periods of withdrawal accentuated an undeniable solitude that followed him until his untimely passing. His emotional intensity was also intertwined with his craft, allowing him to authentically portray the raw, unfiltered angst of disillusioned youth. His performances in films like Rebel Without a Cause mirrored his own existential conflicts, blurring the line between his reality and his art. Directors often remarked on his ability to entirely channel his demons into his characters, lending an unparalleled depth to his roles, and endearing him to audiences who saw reflections of their own struggles in his performances. However, this artistic dedication came at a personal cost. Dean's commitment to wearing his emotions on his sleeve left him vulnerable to the whims of fame and criticism. The same sensitivity that allowed him to excel on-screen rendered him acutely conscious of others' perceptions, feeding into his insecurities. Despite this, he often masked these fears with bursts of rebellion or moments of reckless courage, an act many interpreted as further proof of his enigmatic complexity. Thus, Dean's dance between vulnerability and fortitude was as captivating as it was tragic, drawing admiration and concern in equal measure. His story, underscored by a painful search for identity and intimacy, continues to speak to the universal human experience, reminding us that even the brightest stars often battle shadows unseen. Throughout his short yet impactful life, James Dean maintained a singular and deeply intimate connection with his mother. She played an instrumental role, not only as the nurturing presence so vital in childhood, but also as a constant source of inspiration that shaped his identity as an artist. From an early age, she recognized the spark of creativity in her son, fostering his burgeoning interests with unwavering support and encouragement. Her understanding of his inner world provided a sanctuary where he could feel truly seen and valued, laying the foundation for his artistic ambitions. Her influence extended beyond simple encouragement. She cultivated in him a profound love for creativity and instilled a belief in his ability to dream beyond the ordinary. This nurturing bond infused James with a sense of purpose, giving him the confidence to pursue aspirations that might have otherwise seemed unattainable. Their relationship was a safe haven where he could explore his talents without fear of judgment, and her unwavering belief in him emboldened his pursuits at every step of the journey. When his mother passed away, the loss was catastrophic for young James. It left an emotional void that shadowed him for the rest of his life. Her absence was not merely a loss of a parent, but the loss of the one person who wholly understood his essence. This profound grief became a bedrock for much of what drove him forward in his career and personal relationships. James often sought similar connections in those around him, perhaps hoping to rekindle the depth of understanding and encouragement he had felt from his mother. In many ways, her memory lived on within him, interwoven into his pursuit of acting. He carried her influence into every performance, channeling the pain of losing her into the raw, emotional depth that made his work so captivating. These experiences, shaped by both love and loss, greatly enriched his roles, giving him a vulnerability and intensity that set him apart. Although he was unable to articulate the full scope of this impact, he frequently spoke of her in interviews and private conversations, underscoring the significant role she had played in his life. He never forgot the sense of security her belief in him provided, and this became his touchstone as he navigated a turbulent world. Even as he grew older and tasted the swift rise of fame, that bond remained the cornerstone of his emotional foundation. It was a connection that transcended her physical presence and shaped his life in immeasurable ways. His mother's influence illuminated the path he walked, and no matter the challenges he faced, he seemed to carry her unwavering support with him as an internal compass. For Dean, her legacy lived on not just in his work, but in the very fabric of his being, shaping the way he approached life, art, and the imprints he left behind. After losing his mother at a tender age, James Dean faced a dramatic upheaval in his life when he was sent to live with his aunt and uncle in Indiana. Leaving behind the familiarity of his California home created a void in his young heart, amplifying the pain of his mother's absence. The adjustment to his new surroundings proved challenging as he grappled with an overwhelming sense of loneliness. Indiana, with its vast fields and quiet pace, seemed far removed from the life he had known, and this abrupt change deepened his feelings of disconnection. In these moments, James felt unsure of where he belonged, as though the very essence of his identity was adrift in a strange, unwelcoming space. The years he spent in Indiana left an indelible mark on his character. Away from the warmth of his original family, he learned to navigate the world in his own unique way, straddling a complex blend of self-reliance and vulnerability. Despite the loving intentions of his aunt and uncle, the absence of his mother's guiding presence lingered like a shadow, shaping many of his interactions and relationships. This challenging period forced Dean to confront adult themes of loss and resilience far earlier than most others his age. It was during this time that he developed a quiet, inward strength, while simultaneously grappling with a haunting sense of fragility. Although his new home provided shelter and safety, it could not replace the emotional bond Dean once shared with his mother. This sense of displacement further accentuated his inner struggles as he tried to carve out a space for himself in a world that often felt foreign. Indiana's rural life, slower and more structured, seemed incompatible with an imaginative and restless young boy like James. These conflicting emotions became a driving force in his life, leaving him caught between wanting to belong and retaining his independence. Perhaps it was this internal battle that ignited the spark of what would later become his iconic blend of sensitive vulnerability and fierce determination. His formative years in Indiana were a time of emotional solitude, yet they also cultivated a depth in his personality that was both captivating and enigmatic. He became acutely aware of his emotions, a trait that added complexity to his understated demeanor. The lack of familiar faces and the forced adaptation to a new life helped define who James Dean was becoming, shaping the foundation of the man and artist he would one day be. The Indiana chapter of his life, marked by resilience in the face of tremendous loss, laid bare the contrasting qualities of his character, showcasing an early version of the tension between his sensitivity and his need to endure. Despite the challenges he faced early in life, James Dean thrived both academically and socially during his formative years. His keen intellect and natural charisma helped him excel across various fields, including academics, sports, and drama at Fairmount High School. Teachers and peers alike admired his perseverance and dedication as he navigated personal adversity with admirable strength. Losing his mother at a young age left an emotional void, yet this loss also fueled a deep sensitivity that would later shape his acting career. Acting and physical pursuits became a way for Dean to channel his energies and emotions, finding solace and purpose in creative expression and athletic discipline. Dean's enthusiasm for drama was evident in his participation in school plays, where his performances garnered attention for their intensity and authenticity. Simultaneously, he proved himself a capable athlete, engaging in basketball and other sports with equal vigor, showcasing his ability to focus and commit fully to his passions. This balance of cerebral pursuits and physical activity underscored the breadth of his capabilities and hinted at qualities that aligned with his later emergence as a cultural icon. His teachers emphasized his respectful demeanor and work ethic, traits that earned him the admiration of all he encountered. The early exposure to acting had profound implications for Dean's evolving sense of self. The stage became more than a venue for artistic exploration. It offered him a refuge and a platform to shine. His captivating stage presence and raw emotional depth showcased an innate ability to connect with audiences, hinting at the prodigious talent he would later exhibit on screen. These formative experiences in high school drama were a precursor to his subsequent immersion in the more disciplined realm of method acting, which became integral to his adult career. Likewise, his initial achievements in sports revealed his competitive spirit and ability to work within a team, qualities he carried into his acting ensembles. The camaraderie and discipline inherent in sports activities seemed to parallel the group dynamics he later encountered during theatrical productions. This interdisciplinary success was remarkable, not only for its scope, but also for the context of his life circumstances. Dean's ability to thrive amidst instability and personal loss resonated with those who knew him, as his resilience became a hallmark of his character. Even in high school, hints of what would make James Dean a Hollywood legend were already present. His commitment, discipline, and ability to enthrall audiences were signs of the star he was to become. Dean's natural storytelling ability through drama, combined with his attraction to complex, emotionally charged roles, marked the beginning of a legacy that would later reverberate through cinema history. Yet at this early stage, his achievements also reinforced a rare spirit of determination, setting him apart as an individual destined for extraordinary potential. James Dean's early accomplishments in academics, athletics, and drama were the solid foundation upon which he built his brief yet illustrious life. After briefly pursuing studies in law, James Dean experienced a pivotal moment that reshaped the course of his life. Recognizing his passion for performance, he shifted his focus towards drama, a decision that marked the start of his remarkable journey to Hollywood stardom. This transition became the cornerstone of his nascent acting career, introducing him to the rigorous demands of the craft and the rewarding process of embodying intense and multifaceted characters. Early in this phase, Dean was fortunate to find a significant mentor in the accomplished actor James Whitmore. Whitmore, who had built a solid reputation on Broadway and in film, was instrumental in nurturing Dean's raw talent and guiding him through the challenges of breaking into the competitive world of acting. As a mentor, Whitmore recognized the young performer's potential and provided him with much-needed encouragement and direction. He invited Dean to join his acting workshop in Los Angeles, a space where practical craft and expressive techniques converged. This mentorship laid the foundation for Dean to refine his skills and begin forming his signature acting style, characterized by a deep commitment to authenticity and emotional depth. When Whitmore advised Dean to broaden his horizons by moving to New York, Dean heeded this advice and traveled across the country to immerse himself in the city's vibrant theater scene. The journey eastward symbolized more than just a geographical move. It represented Dean's determination to build a serious and lasting legacy within the performing arts. After settling in the city, Dean auditioned for the prestigious Actors Studio and was among a select few who were accepted. His admission to this institution, which emphasized the Stanislavski-based method acting approach, further underscored his commitment to the craft. Guided by luminaries like Lee Strasberg, Dean explored and developed his skills in emotionally charged roles, carving out a reputation as a performer who brought intense personal authenticity to his portrayals. During this formative stage of his career, Dean developed a distinctive acting style that contrasted sharply with classical techniques often found in cinema of the time. He honed his craft by participating in a variety of challenging projects, ranging from live television dramas to stage performances, all of which demanded adaptability and depth. While his roles in early New York productions garnered critical attention, it was clear that his performances exuded a magnetic quality that captured the imagination of audiences and industry professionals alike. The move to acting solidified James Dean's trajectory as he dedicated himself fully to the pursuit of becoming a true artist. This was evident in the way he embraced his roles, not just assuming a character but deeply inhabiting it. As he transitioned to film, his dedication to methodical preparation and precise delivery would become hallmarks of his now celebrated performances, distinguishing him from many of his contemporaries. As Whitmore had mentored him, Dean's rise to prominence became a powerful testimony to the impact of dedicated guidance paired with individual passion and perseverance in shaping emerging talents. Dean's breakthrough in Hollywood was marked by his mesmerizing performances in three iconic films: East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant. In East of Eden, released in 1955, he captivated audiences with his portrayal of Cal Trask, a character torn between his desire for paternal approval and his personal moral dilemmas. The role embodied a raw emotional depth, showcasing Dean's uncanny ability to take profound feelings and turn them into powerful scenes on screen. This performance earned him an Academy Award nomination, solidifying his place among the rising stars of the era. Later in 1955, Rebel Without a Cause premiered, forever engraving James Dean's place as a generational icon. Playing the tormented yet magnetic Jim Stark, Dean encapsulated the frustration and rebellion of youth, resonating deeply with audiences who felt a similar disillusionment. His character's vulnerability combined with defiance made him a relatable and compelling figure, while the emotional intensity Dean brought to the film ensured its standing as one of the era's defining works. The film's themes of generational conflict and the search for authenticity were given poignant life through Dean's groundbreaking performance, marking it as a benchmark not just in his career, but in American cinema itself. In 1956, Giant presented a different dimension to Dean's talent when he portrayed Jet Rink, an ambitious character who begins as a humble ranch hand and progresses to massive wealth and power. Unlike his earlier roles, this performance demanded a broader emotional and temporal arc spanning years of the character's life. Dean brought both nuance and complexity to Jet, from his ambitious beginnings to the hubris of his later years. His ability to navigate the emotional journey of Jet showcased a remarkable evolution of his craft. The unifying factor in all three films was Dean's unparalleled ability to channel his own struggles and emotions onto the screen. Whether it was the angst of his youth or his search for identity and belonging, he transformed these inner battles into something universally impactful. His acting often blurred the line between fiction and reality, allowing audiences to connect with his characters on a deeply personal level. The emotional intensity he brought to his performances wasn't just acting. It felt like Dean was living those moments, drawing from the well of his experiences and vulnerabilities. Through East of Eden, Rebel Without a Cause, and Giant, Dean became a symbol of truth and passion in Hollywood. His defiant yet tender portrayals resonated with a generation that sought a voice, making him a timeless figure in popular culture. The sincerity of his work broke through the artificiality often associated with the industry, bringing an authenticity that has kept his legacy alive for decades. Amid the highly competitive world of mid-20th century Hollywood, Rogers Brackett emerged as a pivotal figure in shaping James Dean's career. Brackett, a wealthy and influential advertising executive, first encountered Dean in 1951, during a period when Dean was still relatively unknown. At the time, Dean was working as a parking valet near CBS Studios, a menial job far removed from the glamour of the acting roles he sought. Brackett, drawn to Dean's undeniable talent and charm, extended an offer of support, both professionally and personally. Their relationship began with professional mentorship, as Brackett used his considerable influence and industry connections to help Dean secure early opportunities in acting. For example, Brackett was instrumental in landing Dean a role in the radio drama Alias Jane Doe, which served as a crucial stepping stone in Dean's budding career. Their relationship, however, was complex and layered. While publicly framed as a mentorship, private accounts suggest a deeply personal bond that many believe went beyond the platonic or professional. The balance of power in their relationship became a topic of speculation and discussion. Friends and biographers later noted the duality of the relationship. Dean often considered Brackett a protector and guide, while Brackett may have viewed Dean as a young prodigy full of untapped potential. Regardless of the nature of their connection, Brackett played an undeniable role in helping Dean secure the kind of roles that would later catapult him to stardom. Brackett's mentorship extended beyond mere career advice. He provided financial support to Dean during the early 1950s, helping him to focus on auditions and acting rather than the struggles of day-to-day survival in a challenging industry. This support allowed Dean the freedom to sharpen his skills as an actor and to take calculated risks in building connections with other influential figures. Dean understood the art of navigating social structures within Hollywood, and his relationship with Brackett was part of a broader strategy to climb the ladder of success. The nature of their dynamic created both opportunities and controversy. While some describe Brackett as a benefactor and mentor, others within Hollywood whispered about the intimacy of their relationship, questioning whether Dean leveraged their bond solely for career advancement. Yet, Dean's willingness to maintain connections with figures like Brackett was emblematic of his determination to succeed. In a competitive and often ruthless industry, relationships with influential individuals like Brackett were essential for anyone striving to break through the obscurity of early career struggles. Interestingly, while Brackett and Dean's association eventually faded as Dean rose to fame, the echoes of their relationship lingered in narratives about Dean's life. Brackett's impact had set the trajectory of Dean's burgeoning career, creating avenues and introductions that might otherwise have remained inaccessible. This foundation enabled Dean to showcase his talent through pivotal roles that defined his legacy as a Hollywood legend. The mentorship Dean received from Rogers Brackett has been a subject of debate, as some viewed it as exploitative. Brackett's role in Dean's life was complex, offering both guidance and controversy. This relationship highlights the challenges Dean faced in a Hollywood that often blurred personal and professional boundaries. Brackett, a more experienced figure in the industry, provided Dean with valuable insights and support as he navigated the early stages of his acting career. However, the nature of their relationship raised questions about the power dynamics at play. Critics argue that Brackett's influence over Dean was not entirely healthy, suggesting that it may have crossed into manipulation. Despite this, Dean found in Brackett a mentor who understood the pressures of fame and the sacrifices required to succeed. The relationship left lasting impacts on Dean's personal life, shaping his views on love and loyalty. It created a complex emotional landscape for Dean, who struggled with the expectations placed upon him while trying to maintain his individuality in a demanding industry. Through his ability to cultivate relationships with influential figures, James Dean navigated the often exclusive world of Hollywood with remarkable skill. His success was not solely a result of his raw talent and iconic performances, but also the result of connections that opened doors to significant roles. In an industry known for its challenging dynamics, Dean's network became an essential pillar of his burgeoning career. These associations granted him access to opportunities that might have remained elusive. Notably, his friendships extended into creative and decision-making circles, allowing him strategic insights that bolstered his visibility in Hollywood. Dean's adaptability in leveraging these relationships demonstrated his determination to leave a lasting mark in the competitive Hollywood landscape. Engaging with people who wielded power in studios and productions was not merely a social endeavor for him, but part of his larger strategy to ascend the ranks of stardom. This capacity to make vital connections also reflected a keen sense of awareness about how the industry functioned, blending his charm and understanding of human dynamics to his advantage. His ability to form deep interpersonal ties played a significant role in ensuring him memorable roles that resonated strongly with audiences and critics alike. His bond with directors, producers, and fellow actors often translated into understanding their artistic visions, which in turn shaped his portrayals on screen. As he was making waves, these trusted individuals became his collaborators, confidants, and key advocates. While Dean's acting skills were undeniably his strength, the backing of this network also aided in bridging gaps between his emerging stature and the perceptions held by industry stalwarts. In such a fiercely closed environment, creative alliances with those in command further helped him to navigate the complexities of fame and success. By immersing himself in circles that recognized and celebrated raw artistry, James Dean ensured his name became synonymous with depth and intensity. The trajectory of his career, though cut tragically short, owes much to these formative connections that enabled him to play pivotal characters in films that are now hailed as cinematic classics. His ability to recognize and seize these opportunities while carefully balancing his artistic integrity was a testament to his formidable navigation of Hollywood's social fabric. Throughout his life, James Dean exuded an undeniable charisma that captivated both those who knew him personally and the millions who watched him from afar. His presence was magnetic, a blend of rebellious intensity and a unique charm that set him apart from other stars of his time. Dean possessed a rare energy that made people gravitate toward him, both in everyday interactions and when he occupied the silver screen. His enigmatic persona became a hallmark of his legacy, making him an enduring symbol of cool and rebellion. His ability to enthrall audiences stemmed not just from raw talent, but from a natural ability to connect on an emotional level, allowing people to see fragments of themselves in his performances. Whether in his unique portrayals of complex, misunderstood youth, or in his off-screen persona, he combined a boyish vulnerability with a simmering intensity that made it impossible to look away. Dean's seamless charm was not just in the way he acted, but in how he lived, radiating an effortless confidence that made him seem both larger than life and deeply relatable at the same time. His star power transformed his roles into iconic moments that left indelible marks on cultural memory. Yet, this gripping presence transcended performance. It was a testament to who Dean was. His rebellious edge and ability to challenge the norms resonated with the post-war generation craving a voice for their angst and longing. Fans were entranced by not only his looks and his performances, but also by the way he seemed to live his life unapologetically and authentically, blending curiosity and daring in equal measure. What is so remarkable about Dean is how his powerful persona, one that combined intelligence, nonchalance, and humanity, helped him create an enduring flame, even in a life cut tragically short. His charm was never a crafted illusion, but a deeply ingrained part of his spirit. Dean's life came to an abrupt end in 1955, when he died in a car accident while driving his Porsche Spyder. The crash was a tragic event that shocked Hollywood and his fans worldwide. Known for his roles in films like Rebel Without a Cause and East of Eden, Dean had quickly become a cultural icon, embodying the spirit of youthful rebellion. His fascination with speed and danger was part of his image, often reflected in his choice of cars and his love for racing. This passion, however, ultimately led to his untimely death. On September 30, 1955, while driving to a race in Salinas, California, Dean collided with another vehicle, resulting in fatal injuries. The accident cut short a promising career, leaving fans to wonder what might have been. His death was a significant loss for Hollywood, as he had just begun to establish himself as a major talent, and his legacy continues to influence actors and filmmakers today. Following his untimely death, James Dean became enshrined in the collective memory as an enduring symbol of youthful rebellion and the complexities of the human spirit. Dean's legacy, marked by his tragic end at the young age of 24, took on an almost mythic quality, magnifying his impact on American culture. His short but electrifying career, comprising iconic roles in films such as Rebel Without a Cause, East of Eden, and Giant, epitomized the simmering tensions and disillusionment of the post-war generation. In particular, his persona as the brooding misfit and his portrayals of emotionally vulnerable, misunderstood young men resonated deeply with the youth of the 1950s. He became not just a cinematic sensation, but a cultural touchstone, embodying the spirit of rebellion that challenged the rigid societal norms of his era. As a result, Dean transformed into the very essence of what it meant to be young, restless, and hungry for authenticity, a figure who spoke to the insecurities and aspirations of a generation attempting to carve out its identity. Dean's image, eternally youthful and mysteriously enigmatic, became iconic not only for his intense gaze and laid-back cool, but for the universal values and defiance he represented. It transcended his films, imprinting itself on fashion, music, and the emerging counterculture of the time. His style, a simple white t-shirt, worn jeans, and leather jacket, came to symbolize rebellion and individualism, influencing entire generations and becoming a staple in depictions of Americana. As his figure reigned supreme in posthumous fame, biographers and fans alike delved deep into his complex personality. Emotionally guarded yet intensely sensitive, Dean became a subject of intense scrutiny and fascination, with each layer of his life feeding the mystique that surrounded him. His relationships, his approach to acting, and the inner turmoil that often mirrored the characters he portrayed became the focus of countless explorations in books, documentaries, and essays. Despite the passage of decades, Dean's cultural footprint remains indelible, as he continues to be heralded as a Hollywood icon. His image has been immortalized in countless forms, from postage stamps to commemorative artworks, and his name evokes a spirit of freedom and nonconformity that knows no generational bounds. As time has marched on, his influence has extended beyond the silver screen, shaping how rebellion and youth are perceived in art, film, and popular media. Dean's legacy also serves as a testament to the power of a fleeting yet impactful life. Though his career was tragically brief, he inspired future actors, filmmakers, and artists while forging a narrative that appeals to humanity's universal struggles with identity, conformity, and aspiration. The mythology of James Dean elevates him beyond his mortal existence, ensuring he remains an eternal conduit for personal and artistic freedom. The Porsche Spyder, famously nicknamed Little Bastard, was deeply entwined with James Dean's tragic story, and later gained infamy as the centerpiece of a series of ominous events that led many to believe it was cursed. Dean, an avid car enthusiast and rising Hollywood star, acquired the Porsche in September 1955, mesmerized by its sleek design and performance capabilities. Sadly, his dream car became a harbinger of misfortune when, just weeks later, on September 30, 1955, Dean succumbed to a fatal collision while driving it. This singular event marked the beginning of the car's eerie reputation. Bits and pieces of the wrecked Spyder soon became coveted among collectors and racers. However, those who purchased or encountered these parts often reported strange accidents or bad luck. For instance, the car's engine was sold to a doctor who installed it in his race car, which subsequently crashed, killing the driver. Another racer who acquired its tires also experienced a catastrophic blowout that led to severe injuries. These bizarre episodes fueled the lore around Little Bastard, turning it into an object of macabre fascination. Adding to the mystery, the remaining shell of the Porsche was claimed by George Barris, a customizer, who planned to exhibit it as a roving safety display for public awareness. Instead, accidents plagued this endeavor as well, with the car falling off transport trucks multiple times and causing injuries to bystanders. On one occasion, the garage where it was temporarily housed mysteriously burned down, leaving everything in ruins except the Porsche, which remained oddly intact. Even exhibitions with the relic seemed cursed. Ropes fell, injuring attendees, and pieces of the car inexplicably went missing. In a twist that further emboldened the legend, the entirety of Little Bastard vanished in 1960 while being transported to Los Angeles. Despite numerous investigations and fervent speculation, the car's disappearance remains unresolved, intensifying the aura around its so-called curse. It has become a source of conspiracy theories and folklore, with claims suggesting it was hidden, destroyed, or even intentionally lost to prevent further harm. Little Bastard has since become a symbol, not only for the untimely death of James Dean, but also for the unknown powers that many believe to linger in the wake of profound tragedy. Fans, historians, and skeptics continue to debate the legitimacy of the curse, but the legacy of the car endures, forever linked with Dean's celebrity status and the mystique of his tragic demise. The story of James Dean and his Porsche 550 Spyder, nicknamed Little Bastard, is steeped in whispers of a curse that still captures the imagination. Dean, a promising young talent, purchased the sleek silver car shortly after completing his final film, Giant. Renowned for his passion for fast cars, the vehicle symbolized his rebellious and adventurous spirit. On September 30, 1955, however, what began as a normal day turned tragic when Dean collided with another vehicle on a California highway. His death at just 24 left a void in Hollywood, but the tale of his Porsche did not end with him. The remains of the car became infamous as they appeared to carry an eerie legacy. Soon after the crash, parts of Little Bastard were salvaged and reused, sparking a chain of bizarre and often tragic events. A mechanic who transported the wreckage was crushed to death when the car slipped from its trailer. Subsequently, the Porsche's engine, after being installed in another sports car, was involved in a serious road accident, injuring the driver. Similar fates befell other vehicles that incorporated parts of Dean's wreck, leading many to believe the car harbored a foreboding curse. The sinister reputation of the Little Bastard grew, as the car was loaned to a traveling exhibit to showcase the dangers of reckless driving. At one event, the wreckage inexplicably caught fire, though no one was near it. Furthermore, the car reportedly caused injuries to those handling it during its exhibition tour. Mysteriously, the car vanished from public record in the early 1960s. Attempts to track its whereabouts have led only to unanswered questions, leaving its final fate one of the numerous enigmas surrounding James Dean's legacy. Much of this intrigue also stems from the sheer speed and thrill the Porsche 550 Spyder encapsulated, mirroring its owner's vivacious, tragically brief life. Collectors and historians alike continue probing into the fragments of Little Bastard that have surfaced over the years. Some claim them as relics imbued with a touch of superstition, others as artifacts of caution. This intersection of celebrity, tragedy, and superstition forever sealed James Dean's image as a figure shrouded in mystery. The Porsche that played a pivotal role in his untimely end perpetuates the legend, connecting his personal love for speed to the enduring legacy of a car that, like him, seemed destined to embody both brilliance and doom. Despite his brief time in Hollywood, James Dean remains one of the most iconic figures in the history of cinema. Born on February 8, 1931, in Marion, Indiana, his life was marked by an insatiable quest for authenticity. Dean quickly became the symbolic face of post-war disillusionment and restless youth. His most famous films, Rebel Without a Cause, East of Eden, and Giant, solidified his status as a symbol of rebellion and vulnerability. Each performance exuded an emotional depth that was rare for his time, presenting a raw, unpolished intensity that allowed him to resonate deeply with the younger generation. Dean's role in Rebel Without a Cause, where he portrayed Jim Stark, a troubled teenager in turmoil, encapsulated the frustration and alienation felt by many youths in the 1950s. East of Eden also showcased his capacity for emotionally charged performances, and in Giant, his portrayal of Jet Rink highlighted his ability to embody complex emotions. Although his career spanned only a few short years, Dean's commitment to crafting authentic characters resonated long after his untimely death in a car accident at the age of 24. In his personal life, Dean had a magnetic personality coupled with a strong sense of individuality. He was drawn to the arts, originally studying law before turning to theater and film, where he found his true calling. His love for fast cars and racing became part of his legacy, tragically entwining with his demise. Dean's intense need to live life fully was apparent in both his performances and his personal adventures. His approach to acting, deeply influenced by the method technique, pushed the boundaries of emotional expression in film, inspiring actors and filmmakers for decades. Dean's image remains one of the most recognized in popular culture, a leather-jacketed rebel exuding defiant charisma. Through countless photos, posters, and cultural references, his legacy continues to shape fashion, film, and modern ideals of youthful rebellion. His influence on future actors such as Marlon Brando, Robert De Niro, and Leonardo DiCaprio is a testament to his enduring appeal. He gave voice to the notion of individuality in an era hungry for personal freedom and expression. After his untimely death on September 30, 1955, Dean became a timeless legend. His aura of tragic beauty and unparalleled talent immortalized him as a perpetual icon of rebellion and untapped potential. His legacy, deeply ingrained in cinematic history, ensures that James Dean's name continues to resonate as a symbol of youthful spirit and emotional depth. Navigating Hollywood's golden age meant stepping into a world tightly constrained by morality codes and public image, a world where authenticity often clashed with career ambitions. James Dean, with his raw talent and a charisma that bordered on magnetism, became a cultural icon. Yet, his rise was not without its complexities. Reports and biographies suggest Dean likely maneuvered within the covert dynamics of the industry, forming relationships with powerful men who could bolster his career. This, at times, meant engaging in transactional relationships, exemplified by accusations of gay-for-pay arrangements, a term used to describe circumstances around his reported same-sex liaisons. In this era, being publicly outed could ruin careers. For actors, the pursuit of stardom often required sacrifices. Dean's reported relationship with Rogers Brackett, an influential advertising executive and producer, illustrates this tension. Though Brackett allegedly supported Dean's ambitions and provided resources, the arrangement has been interpreted as both mentorship and something deeply personal. Reports indicate Dean may have been coerced into payments to keep certain aspects of his life under wraps, underscoring the precarious balance he sought to maintain between personal vulnerabilities and professional obligations. Dean's story serves as a lens through which to understand the struggles of queer actors in a bygone Hollywood, where the veneer of perfection masked personal struggles. These covert negotiations with power did not merely define his path to success, but also amplified his complicated legacy, one marked by both defiance and an unsettling submission to industry pressures. The rumors surrounding his personal life remain a speculative, but integral part of understanding how star systems demanded a curated image, sometimes at profound personal cost. In the end, these layers of speculation, rumor, and reality continue to add depth and intrigue to the life of this enduring